Welcome to the CES Movement Podcast with Heather, John, Alan, and Kristina. I'm so happy to have you all here today. We are embarking on new territory. We've got two amazing guests that we're going to be celebrating with today. Heather.
Oh, John, thank you. Oh, Alan and Kristina, I'm so happy to have you both. I'm so happy to be here on a Celebration Friday. And like John said, we have two special guests, and they are going to be talking about a speaking engagement that they're going to be speaking at next Tuesday. We're going to get into that, but I want to start with our celebrations because we have so much to celebrate. And I wanted to find out what's going on, Alan and Kristina, in your lives. What do you have to celebrate? And for all of our audience members out there, if you have something to celebrate, we'd love to hear what you're celebrating this week too. So put it in the comments. We'll get over to those in just a minute. So Alan, what are you celebrating on our Celebration Friday?
So a tree got cut down 2 years ago, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with it forever. Finally figured it out. It's becoming a table base for something like a really big table that I've been working on. And the celebration is I convinced the woodworker to actually use it after weeks of him saying, no, it's not going to be usable. No, we can't do it. And he had to dig around inside. He's like, actually, we can use it. And it's kind of sentimental. So I'm really happy to use it.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. And the woodworker is your uncle, yes?
That's right. Yeah. He's very cranky, very grumpy. He says no, he's not going to come on your podcast ever. He's totally that kind of guy.
I love that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you made him say yes, which was beautiful. Now you're creating a beautiful piece of work, right? So I love it. Influence is big, right? And sometimes influence just takes a bit of time and it takes a little bit of work. So that's amazing. I love it.
Oh my goodness, I love
had to paint a vision for him, get him to see what it could be, right?
Oh, that is beautiful. Kristina, what are you celebrating this week?
So I'm celebrating a very random event, and I don't know if all of you have bucket lists. I don't have a bucket list. I have like an unplanned adventure list and a commitment to, relentlessly pursue adventures when they show up in my life. And that happened this week. So if you want to call it an unplanned check on the bucket list, I was part of a discussion a few weeks ago where we were playing a game where the host would say, have you done this? And you had to raise your hand or put your hand down. And one of the items on there was crashing a wedding. And, I love dancing. I love unplanned parties. And I was at a board meeting this week with the executive team. And in the same venue where we were having our executive team closing dinner, there was a huge party going on. It sounded amazing. And we were leaving. I'm like, oh my God, that party sounds so amazing. And the president turns to me and says, oh, we should go check it out. And so we did. And we crashed this party. And the executive team was on the dance floor and essentially took over this company party. And it was just amazing. So I'm celebrating saying yes to unplanned adventures.
Oh my God, I love that. This is why I love traveling with the two of you. Oh, that's such a fantastic story.
You never know what you're going to get. You never know.
No, never. I'm glad that they didn't have tambourines though, because Kristina is a tambourine master, let me tell you. Tambourine master. John, what are you celebrating? You are still away, so you must have tons of things to celebrate.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely celebrating all the wine that I've been having this week, and it's been delicious. Can I tell you? I got to explore the Douro River on Wednesday. I got to go out and do a tour of that and just kind of see history, right? Like thousands of years of history and tradition that goes into what we have in terms of a beverage, in terms of what we have in wine, and just celebrating that and just knowing that it's still here, right? So knowing that I can hop on a boat, go on a road, hop on a train even, and visit history. So I love that. It's been beautiful. What about you, Heather? What are you celebrating this week?
I am celebrating, and it's a little bit nostalgia, but my dad's subscription to National Geographic, it really did, activate the adventure in me. And this week, so for those of you that know, I'm leaving for Mongolia next week, and this trip is because of National Geographic and because my dad had a subscription, and it activated me as a kid to dream of all these faraway lands. And then now I'm actually visiting them. And on earlier this week, a few of us that are going to Mongolia, and Alan actually is one of those people that I'm traveling with, we got together and we watched a movie that's filmed. It's called The Hawk Huntress, and it's filmed where we're going. And I don't know, I'm a little bit more scared about where we're going because there is literally nothing there, and we're going to be, just enjoying the land. And I'm just so grateful that travel is part of my DNA, but it got instilled in me from these books and magazines, National Geographic. So I'm really thankful because my dad didn't travel; he just bought the magazines, and so the ability to do that is it's not lost on me how grateful I am for that. So yeah, that's what I'm celebrating this week. And while I pack, I'll keep celebrating that for sure, and figure out which warm clothes that I'm going to do. I actually think I'm going to buy a battery powered jacket now that I see how cold it is. So I have learned that there is battery powered jackets. I don't know. We'll see.
How are you going to charge it? I heard we're like low on charge. Like there's no infrastructure.
The same thing. I know. I don't know. Maybe the sun I can put a battery sun charger. Who knows? Who knows? For all the listeners out there, we want to celebrate with you as well. So make sure that you're putting your comments as well. Now, John, we have an amazing event, and I want to give our listeners a chance to hear a little bit of Kristina and Alan. You guys have some amazing stories that you're going to share on Tuesday, and we're going to be live. So if you're in the Toronto area, we want you to join us at this event. And what, the concept of this is that me and John, we came up with the podcast Say Yes by just saying yes to each other. In fact, if you don't know the history of it, I got COVID and John finagled me into doing 5 LinkedIn lives in a row because he says, you have nothing better to do, and you have to stay home. So you're going to do 5. And I said, yes. And that's how the name of our podcast came to be. And what we've heard over the past year with all of our listeners is amazing say yes stories. People have said yes to something that changed the course of their life and the impact that it's had on them and the new opportunities that it's opened up. And so we want to hear from amazing people that have said yes to something, because there's always that spark that we need from someone else, and just to think differently and see the world differently. So Kristina, do you want to give us like a little, and just a little bit about what you're going to be talking about, and even if you have a lesson that you want to share today, but don't give too much away because we want everyone to see you on Tuesday as well.
Sure. So I love the idea of saying yes. And when I talk about this with my clients, with my friends and my family, I like to look at the concept of saying yes as, I liken it to windows of opportunity, that every day we're facing windows of opportunity, and how you choose to react to those windows of opportunity can literally change the course of your life. So when you approached Alan and I, and I'll speak for myself in this case, and you said, we would love for you to share a moment about saying yes. I really had to, think deeply about which particular moment I wanted to say yes to, because, there's so many times in our lives when we're faced with these windows of opportunities and we have chosen to say yes. There's also times where we may not even have had the self-awareness to know there was a window of opportunity in front of us. So I think that's also an important step in the process. For me, as a woman who has many, many roles in my life, as a working professional, now entrepreneur, mother, partner, daughter, sister, I think that we tend to say yes too many times in our lives. So at next week's event, I'm actually going to share a story where I chose to say no, and how saying no was a catalyst, for basically, changing the course of my life and allowing me to say yes to myself, say yes to my physical and mental health, and, say yes to my next life of adventure. So that's what I'm going to touch on next week. I don't want to give too much away, but I think it's an important part of the equation that you can't say yes to everything. You just can't.
100%.
You have to selectively say yes to things that align with your values, to what's important to you, and to designing the life that you want to live.
Wow, I'm so glad you're
love it.
saying that, because a lot of our listeners say, but if I say yes to everything, and they actually misunderstand that when you say yes to one thing, you're actually saying no to other things. John, you wanted to comment as well?
No, I was just going to say how, Christina, with what you said, just saying no actually creates another yes, right? When you close one door, you're actually opening the door I think you're supposed to open. And then, in that case, you walk through and you create, like you said, opportunities. You create there's a whole new path that's in front of you by saying that one no to get you to that one yes.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about that. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm going to share that moment which was terrifying, which was uncomfortable, which was life-changing for me. And also the realization after that, when I said no, I was saying yes to so many other things and to myself.
I love those words you're using, Kristina, because oftentimes people misunderstand terror and fear and these things, like, oh, that must mean that it's wrong. That can't be the right answer. And in fact, if you don't feel these things, I go as far to say as you're not living your true best life. Like, really, like, these are the real feelings. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, it's really, in those times of discomfort and when you're uncomfortable that you are truly growing. So I agree with that, Heather.
Now, I know you've got some amazing stories. I'm not sure which ones you're going to share, but I want to ask you this one question. Did you know how you were going to do it at that moment?
No, absolutely not. This was an unplanned moment and something that was completely in the moment and that I had absolutely no plans for.
John, I saw your reaction to that. I'm sure you have something to say.
No, I was just like, it's sometimes not knowing the how actually removes the barriers in front of you, right? And it doesn't create any sort of mental blocks, and that's what I love. As you were saying, I was actually cheering for you underneath underneath the screen here. It's just so exciting that when you step into not knowing the how, that's when you really get to, like you said, you expand, you grow, you get to figure things out in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise, right? Like you just, okay, I don't know how to do this, I'll just figure it out. Right?
And the interesting thing with that as well is that you don't have the fear in advance. So the fear didn't hit me ahead of time. I wasn't in a position where I was, fearful for weeks or days leading up for it or scared to make the decision. It's like the decision made and the fear followed, right? Like, oh my God, what have I done moment.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's so many lessons in that. And we're gonna be talking about this after this and next week after we hear from you. But Alan, I want to hear a little bit about your Say Yes story, because you have such a unique perspective of the world, and I just love to hear a little bit. And again, don't give too much away because we want everyone to come and hear live.
Okay. So something just came to mind. I'll share like a short one, and this is something people can try at home if you've got kids. And I heard this recently, which was pick one day a year where the kids, so often we're telling them no, or like, you got to go do this, you got to do that. Like 2 weeks ago in the morning, I didn't tell my son, but everything he asked for, I just said yes. Like, we're just going to go do that, right? And he didn't do anything outrageous. Like, it wasn't crazy, but we just had the most like chill, conflict-free, like flowy day that we've had in forever. And it was so great. We went on like huge bike rides, like ate a reasonable amount of ice cream, and it was great. So try saying yes to your kid if you got one, and that's something that you'd like to try. So there's that. I'm not going to talk about that because that was just a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to talk about something from 2022, and I'll tell the beginning of the story, and I'll cut it off right at the cliffhanger. That's going to make you want to come hear the rest. So I'm sitting with my brother-in-law in the den at his house, and we're drinking a bottle of red. And he's working on his coaching accreditation at the time, and he's really eager to help me talk and practice his coaching sessions and work me through like a thing I was working through. And at that point, I'm at this crossroads, and I just begun this process of exiting my company. I need to start making decisions about what was going to happen next, right? I had a couple of months, and I've been running this business for almost 11 years. So, for about 6 years, I'd been kind of plagued by a question of like, what am I going to do next when this thing is over? I've been batting around all these ideas. Maybe I'll start this, maybe I'll start that. maybe I'll do this with person A, maybe I'll do this with person B, maybe I'll join this thing or I'll join that thing. And I was stressed. I was really feeling it. And I was expecting to have this conversation with him about each one of the options. And we were going to go through A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z, and, sort of work through all the pieces of it. And I would be able to take that data point with him and then do the same thing with a bunch of other people. And I would get clear, like a winner would emerge. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen. He kind of looked at me for a minute and he's like, I'm sharing all this, like I'm starting to share. And he goes, And he took a sip of his wine. And in his best, coaching accreditation student voice, he says, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" Ooh. And the answer hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I was in a car and the brakes went on, the seatbelt comes up against my chest, right? It was I knew exactly right away, what it was. And if you want to know what it was, I'll see you on
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday night.
Well, I'm on a cliffhanger. This is fantastic. Wow. Oh, I just love that. What would you do if you weren't afraid? And this is, going back to Kristina, knowing that, not knowing the how, and then having that fear show up, but going through it anyways and pushing through that fear and not knowing the how. If you know the how, you've spent way too much time in the planning process and not enough time creating this vision for the best version of yourself. So, wow, I'm so excited now to hear the rest of this story, Alan. John?
Yeah. I just wanted to take a second and acknowledge Sharif, who's actually celebrating his win with us this week. He had an opportunity to present for the first time to 3 executives from his organization with some of his ERG colleagues, and it went really well. So way to go, Sharif. Woo-hoo. And I believe the other person that's on there is Andrew. Hey, Andrew, just wanted to say hello and step in. But Alan, as you were sharing your story, I could see that moment, right? Where you think you're going to go in one direction, and you're what? Like, what happened? So it's amazing that sometimes when you don't know, it's better. It's, when you think and then things show up the way they need to show up, that's when you really start to live, right? Like, that's really when you jump out of your skin and you're like, you know what? Yeah, there is a better solution. What would you do if you weren't afraid? And as you ask that question, I'm thinking to myself, what would I do if I wasn't afraid?
Right.
And it's just like, I'm starting to think differently already. And I hope for everybody who's listening right now, take that one question, right? What's that one thing that you would do if you weren't afraid? And hopefully it's saying yes to coming to a live speaker event on Tuesday evening with all of us and listening to the rest of Alan's story. I love it. Because you just never know, right? And this is the exciting part, to listen to both you, Alan, and Kristina. You're going to be sharing your stories with everybody in the audience. And sometimes that one thing, the one thing I'm always talking about, I learned years ago, I can't remember from who, but the speaker said, if you can take one thing from an event, one thing from a speech, one thing from a seminar or presentation, and just implement it. Yeah, and just go with it. Life shows up in a beautiful way, right? And that's what I'm like. I'm so excited to have you on stage with us, and the other speakers, Tara and Crystal. I know. There's going to be so much gold nuggets. This kind of, there's the expression acres of diamonds, and there's going to be acres of diamonds on Tuesday evening with all of you.
Absolutely. So, yeah. We're going to put the link for tickets. We would love to see you all there. Now, guys, I have like 5 call to actions that I could choose from this call. There's just been so much sharing in just this quick 20 minutes. So I'm going to give our listeners a choose your own adventure moment, because you're going to have 3 that you can choose from. The first one is this. Do you have kids? If you do, use Alan's example, say yes to them for a whole day and see what comes up. I think that's just so magical. Of course, say yes to an appropriate amount of ice cream is the right answer. I love that. I think the other 2 is, what are you saying no to this weekend so that you can say yes to yourself, so that self-care becomes a part of your say yes this weekend. And it's a great time to get out for a walk, see the fall colors, whatever is going to nourish your soul. I think that's a great example, Kristina, for that. And, the last one is, that question that hit me pretty hard too is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? This is an amazing sit down and journal moment. So those are your 3 call to actions. I know we never give you 3, but this is a moment. There was just so many acres of diamonds shared in this call that you have the whole weekend to say yes to the best version of yourself. And so go ahead and do all 3 if you're really going ahead. And we'll ask you on Monday how all of that went. So John, back over to you. And Kristina and Alan, I just want to say I'm so grateful. And every time I'm with you, I learn something more and I take it away with such gratitude. And I just want to say, I'm so glad I said yes to adventure, because that's how I met both of you. So my say yes led to meeting the 2 of you. So thank you for being in my life. John?
Yeah, no, thank you, Heather. And I just wanted to say thank you to Felicia sharing the love with us. She's saying, and she's already expressing her, I'm going to say, gratitude. Great talk. She's always learning. And I love that both Alan and Kristina have shared your, parts of your say yes. So if you want to catch more of their story, if you want to see them live in person, not just streaming on video, you got to come join us at the Say Yes Say Yes Movement speaker event on October 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern at the Staples Studio on University Avenue. Tickets are still available. There is a link in the comments, in the description, that you can click on, and there's still a few tickets left, so you can grab your ticket today. And just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Say Yes Movement podcast. Thanks, everybody.